What happens when the person you discriminate against controls your company's future? Imagine walking into an upscale restaurant, being told there's a 45-minute wait despite visible empty tables, watching as white customers who arrive after you get seated immediately, and then revealing that you control $200 million in funding for that very establishment. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Dr. Althea Vance, founder and managing partner of Ethelred Capital, who turned a moment of blatant racism into a masterclass in accountability. I'm standing in your Gilded Spoon location in Northwood. I've just been refused a table because of my race, Dr. Vance said calmly into her phone. I need you to be here in 1 hour. We need to discuss the future of Ethelred's $200 million funding facility for the Artisan Group. The restaurant manager's face went from smug to shocked in seconds. This encounter highlights what millions of Black Americans experience daily: the persistent reality of dining while Black. Despite the Civil Rights Act of 1964 guaranteeing equal access to public accommodations, Black customers routinely face longer waits, segregated seating, demands for prepayment, and outright refusal of service. Major restaurant chains have paid millions in settlements for these practices. Denny's settled for $54 million. Cracker Barrel paid $8.7 million. Yet the discrimination continues, often justified by false claims of dress code violations or reservations that mysteriously disappear when white customers request the same tables. But Dr. Vance wasn't just any customer. She was the head of the private equity firm that had recently acquired the restaurant's parent company. And what happened next wasn't just about getting a table. It was about transforming an entire corporation. Have you or someone you know ever experienced discrimination in a restaurant, store, or other public place? Share your story in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and they help expose the everyday reality of racism that many still deny exists. Althea Vance wasn't born into wealth or privilege. Her parents, school teachers in rural Georgia, raised her with a simple but powerful philosophy: dignity cannot be purchased or feigned. What they lacked in financial resources, they made up for with unwavering determination to provide their daughter with opportunities they never had. Through academic scholarships and part-time jobs, Althea worked her way through college, graduating summa cum laude with a degree in economics from Howard University. Her brilliance caught the attention of professors who encouraged her to continue her education. Despite facing constant microaggressions and assumptions that she didn't belong, Althea earned her PhD in economics from Princeton, where her dissertation on wealth inequality and capital access garnered national attention. I wasn't just studying economic barriers, Dr. Vance once explained in a rare interview. I was living them. Wall Street came calling. At 28, she joined Goldman Sachs, where her analytical mind and strategic thinking quickly propelled her through the ranks. By 35, she was managing billion-dollar portfolios and earning a reputation as someone who could see opportunities others missed. But the corporate ladder wasn't her final destination. After a decade on Wall Street, Dr. Vance took her experience, connections, and vision to launch something revolutionary: Ethelred Capital, named after the Old English term for noble counsel. I chose the name deliberately, she explains. In finance, power without wisdom is dangerous. We aim to be both powerful and wise in how we deploy capital. Starting with just $50 million in seed funding, Ethelred grew rapidly as institutional investors recognized Dr. Vance's unique approach. Unlike traditional private equity firms that focus solely on profit extraction, Ethelred specialized in rehabilitating undervalued companies by investing in their workforces, communities, and sustainable practices. Within 5 years, Ethelred was managing over $2 billion in assets. But what truly distinguished Dr. Vance was her philosophy that economic power must serve a greater purpose. Money is not the goal, she often tells her team. It's the tool. The real question is, what are you building with it? For Dr. Vance, the answer was clear: building bridges of opportunity for communities historically excluded from economic prosperity. She established innovative programs that provided capital access to minority entrepreneurs, created transparent investment vehicles for historically Black colleges, and pioneered diversity requirements in her portfolio companies. Her philosophy is simple, yet revolutionary. Those who have overcome barriers have a responsibility to dismantle them for others. Little did she know that this philosophy would be tested in the most personal way at a restaurant called the Gilded Spoon. The evening was meant to be joyful. Dr. Vance's parents' 45th wedding anniversary deserved a special celebration. After careful consideration, she chose the Gilded Spoon, an upscale casual restaurant known for its elegant atmosphere and contemporary American cuisine. The chain was part of the Artisan Restaurant Group, which Ethelred Capital had recently acquired in a $1.2 billion deal. Dr. Vance arrived with her parents, sister, brother-in-law, and their 2 teenage children. They were dressed impeccably, her father in a tailored suit, her mother in a midnight blue dress that complemented her silver hair. Dr. Vance herself wore a cream-colored designer outfit with subtle gold accessories. "Good evening," she greeted the host with a warm smile. "Reservation for Vance, party of 7. The host, the young woman, tapped at her screen before looking up apologetically. "I'm sorry, I don't see a reservation under that name." "That's odd," Dr. Vance replied, remaining calm. "I called yesterday and spoke with someone named Donovan." At the mention of this name, a man in his late 40s approached from behind the counter. "I'm Donovan, the manager. Is there a problem?" After explaining the situation, Dr. Vance watched as Donovan made a show of checking the system. His body language shifted subtly, shoulders stiffening, lips tightening into a thin line. "I apologize, but we have no record of your reservation. We're quite busy tonight, so there will be approximately a 45-minute wait for a table of your size." Dr. Vance glanced around the restaurant. While many tables were occupied, she noticed a large, empty booth in a prime location near the windows. "What about that table?" she inquired politely, gesturing toward it. Donovan's response was immediate and practiced. "I apologize, but that table is reserved for a priority guest who should be arriving shortly." Dr. Vance nodded, maintaining her composure. "I understand. We'll wait then." As they moved to the waiting area, Dr. Vance texted her colleague Leo, who had planned to join them briefly for a toast. "Change of plans. When you arrive, don't mention you're with us. Ask for a table for 7 and see what happens." 20 minutes later, Leo, a white man in his mid-30s, entered and approached Donovan. "Good evening. I need a table for 7, please." Dr. Vance watched as Donovan's demeanor transformed completely. His frown dissolved into a welcoming smile. "Of course, sir. We have the perfect table for your party." He gestured toward the same booth he had claimed was reserved. That was all Dr. Vance needed to see. She approached Donovan with her family following behind. "Excuse me, Donovan," she said, her voice measured but firm. "I couldn't help but notice you're offering this gentleman the table you told me was reserved for a priority guest." Donovan froze, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and panic in rapid succession. "Oh, this must be the rest of your party, sir?" he asked Leo hopefully. "No," Leo replied. "I just arrived and asked for a table. I had no idea Dr. Vance was already here." Donovan attempted recovery. "There must be some misunderstanding. Perhaps this gentleman is the priority reservation I mentioned." "There was no reservation," Dr. Vance stated flatly, "and we both know exactly why you offered him this table and not my family." The restaurant had grown quieter, nearby diners sensing the tension. "I assure you, there's been a mistake," Donovan stammered. "We value all our customers equally." Dr. Vance held his gaze steadily. "Do you know who I am, Donovan?" "A valued customer?" he attempted weakly. "My name is Dr. Althea Vance. I'm the founder and managing partner of Ethelred Capital." Recognition dawned slowly on his face, followed by mounting horror. "Have you ever been treated differently based on your appearance? Told a table was unavailable only to watch someone else get seated immediately? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help others realize they're not alone." Without raising her voice or displaying anger, Dr. Vance reached into her purse and removed her phone. The restaurant had fallen completely silent, other diners now openly watching the confrontation. "I'd like to make a call," she said to Donovan, who stood frozen in place. "Please don't go anywhere." She scrolled through her contacts and pressed a name. The phone rang on speaker, echoing in the hushed dining room. "Marcus Thorne," answered a deep voice. "Marcus, it's Althea Vance," she said, her tone shifting from that of a wronged customer to that of an executive in command. I'm standing in your Gilded Spoon location in Northwood. I've just been refused a table because of my race." "What?" The shock in Marcus's voice was unmistakable. Yes, I'm quite sure," she continued calmly. "Your manager Donovan told my family there would be a 45-minute wait, claiming an empty table was reserved. When my white colleague arrived minutes later, he was immediately offered that same table." Donovan's face had drained of color as he realized who was on the other end of the call. Marcus Thorne, CEO of the Artisan Restaurant Group. "I need you to be here in 1 hour," Dr. Vance continued. "We need to discuss the future of Ethelred's $200 million funding facility for the Artisan Group." The implications of her words hung in the air. 6 months earlier, Ethelred Capital had led a consortium of investors in acquiring the struggling Artisan Restaurant Group. The $200 million she mentioned wasn't just money, it was the critical funding needed for the company's planned revitalization. "I'll be there immediately," Marcus replied, his voice tight with concern. Dr. Vance ended the call and turned to Donovan, whose expression had transformed from dismissive to desperate. Other staff members had gathered nearby, whispering urgently. "That $200 million is earmarked for restaurant renovations, menu development, and expansion into new markets," she explained, her voice carrying enough for nearby tables to hear. "Every dollar requires my signature for release. At this moment, I'm questioning whether this establishment deserves another penny." "Dr. Vance, please," Donovan began. "I had no idea who you were." "And that's precisely the problem," she interrupted. "You shouldn't need to know who I am to treat me with basic dignity. The fact that you're only concerned now that you know I control your company's funding speaks volumes." For the next 45 minutes, ironically, the exact wait time Donovan had quoted, Dr. Vance and her family were seated at the contested table. The service was impeccable, but uncomfortable, with staff members clearly on edge. At precisely 1 hour after her call, Marcus Thorne rushed through the entrance, tie askew and forehead damp with sweat. The CEO of a company with over 200 restaurants nationwide had dropped everything to address this crisis personally. "Dr. Vance," he said, approaching her table, "I can't begin to express my apologies." "Save them," she replied. "We need to talk about the future of your company." Marcus Thorne shifted uncomfortably in his seat across from Dr. Vance. They had moved to a private dining room, away from curious eyes and ears. Dr. Vance's family had graciously continued their anniversary dinner in the main dining area, insisting she handle this business matter. "I want to assure you this incident doesn't reflect our company values," Marcus began, his voice carrying the practiced tone of damage control. Dr. Vance raised her hand slightly, stopping him mid-sentence. "Marcus, I'm not interested in hollow assurances. What happened tonight isn't an isolated incident. It's a symptom of deeper problems within your corporate culture." She placed a leather portfolio on the table and opened it, revealing meticulously organized documents. "As of this moment, I'm freezing Ethelred's $200 million funding facility for the Artisan Restaurant Group," she stated, her voice matter-of-fact. "The capital will remain inaccessible until you implement comprehensive reforms." Marcus paled. "Dr. Vance, without that funding, our renovation plans, our new menu rollout, will be delayed indefinitely," she finished for him, "unless you agree to my non-negotiable terms." She slid a document across the table outlining 4 specific demands. First, an independent equity audit. You will hire an external firm specializing in organizational assessment to conduct a thorough examination of every aspect of your business. Hiring practices, promotion patterns, customer service protocols, and complaint resolutions. The results will be made public, and the findings will inform mandatory changes. Marcus nodded grimly, making notes. Second, comprehensive bias and fair service training. Not a perfunctory online course, but serious, ongoing education for every employee from dishwashers to board members. The curriculum must be developed by recognized experts and include implicit bias recognition, microaggression awareness, de-escalation techniques, and the legal consequences of discriminatory practices. Third, establishment of a client equity advisory board with real authority. This board will include community leaders, civil rights advocates, and customers from diverse backgrounds who will be compensated for their expertise. They will have direct input on policies, marketing, and in-restaurant experiences. Dr. Vance paused, ensuring Marcus understood the seriousness of these requirements before continuing to her final point. Fourth, and most importantly, the creation of a $20 million community investment fund. This will be allocated from the original $200 million and used specifically to provide low-interest loans, grants, and mentorship to minority and women entrepreneurs who wish to become Artisan Group franchisees or suppliers. Marcus looked up from his notes, surprised. "You want us to give away $20 million? Dr. Vance's expression remained calm but intensified. "I want you to invest $20 million in creating opportunities for people who have been systematically excluded from them. This isn't charity, it's smart business that will diversify your ownership base, strengthen your supply chain, and create authentic connections with communities you claim to value." She closed her portfolio decisively. "These are my terms. Accept them, and the remaining $180 million continues flowing. Reject them, and Ethelred will reconsider its entire investment position in the Artisan Group." Marcus was silent for a long moment, calculating the implications. The company's revitalization strategy hinged entirely on this funding. Without it, they would likely face bankruptcy within months. "How quickly do you need an answer?" he finally asked. "You already have all the information you need to make this decision," she replied. "The only question is whether you'll do what's right because it's right, or only because it's financially necessary." After another moment of consideration, Marcus extended his hand. "We accept your terms." Dr. Vance nodded, accepting his handshake. "Good. I'll expect a detailed implementation timeline on my desk by Monday morning. Do you believe economic power can drive meaningful social change? This story shows how capital, typically used to maintain inequality, can become a tool for justice when in the right hands. Subscribe to see more examples of how power can be redirected to create positive change. 3 months after the incident at the Gilded Spoon, Dr. Vance stood beside Marcus Thorne at a press conference in downtown Chicago. Behind them, a banner read, "Introducing the Artisan Group Equity and Entrepreneurship Initiative." Camera flashes punctuated the room as Marcus addressed the assembled journalists. "Today marks a new chapter for the Artisan Restaurant Group," he announced. "With the guidance and partnership of Ethelred Capital, we're proud to launch a $20 million fund dedicated to supporting minority and women entrepreneurs in the restaurant and hospitality sector." What Marcus didn't mention, but many business publications had already reported, was how this initiative came about. The story of Dr. Vance's experience had leaked to the press within days of the incident, quickly becoming a case study in both corporate accountability and the strategic use of economic leverage. The changes within the Artisan Group had been swift and substantial. The independent equity audit revealed troubling patterns. Black customers waited an average of 12 minutes longer for service. Complaints from minority guests were 70% less likely to receive follow-up. And racial diversity decreased dramatically at each step up the management ladder. With these findings public, the company had no choice but to act decisively. The bias training program was developed and implemented within 6 weeks. The Client Equity Advisory Board was established with prominent civil rights attorneys, community organizers, and everyday customers from diverse backgrounds. Most significantly, the $20 million fund was already accepting applications from potential franchisees and suppliers. The ripple effects extended far beyond one restaurant group. Other companies in the hospitality industry began proactively examining their own practices. Several launched similar initiatives, recognizing that addressing discrimination wasn't just morally right. It was increasingly becoming a business imperative. Public reaction was overwhelmingly positive. The Artisan Group's social media engagement increased by 300%, with many customers explicitly mentioning the new initiatives as their reason for choosing the restaurants. Franchise applications doubled, with a particularly notable increase from minority applicants. In financial terms, what initially seemed like a costly punishment had transformed into a strategic advantage. The Artisan Group's stock price, which had plummeted when news of the incident first broke, now exceeded its previous high as investors recognized the value of the company's enhanced reputation and expanded market reach. As for Donovan, the manager who had refused Dr. Vance's service, He was immediately terminated, but the story didn't end there. As part of the new policies, the company offered him the option to complete the comprehensive bias training program. Whether he took that opportunity remains unknown. The story of Dr. Althea Vance and the Gilded Spoon transcends a simple narrative of personal vindication. It illustrates a profound truth about power, dignity, and systemic change in modern America. Dr. Vance could have responded to discrimination in many ways. She could have caused a scene, posted about it on social media, or filed a lawsuit. Each would have been justified, but each would have limited impact. Instead, she recognized a rare opportunity to leverage her economic position to demand structural reform. Her approach was surgical rather than emotional. When she called the CEO, she wasn't seeking an apology or the manager's termination. She understood that firing one employee would address only a symptom, not the disease. Her goal was to fundamentally restructure how an entire corporation operated. This strategic application of power demonstrates a crucial lesson about creating meaningful change. Individual acts of racism are supported by systems, hiring practices, training protocols, corporate cultures, and economic incentives. Attacking these individual acts without addressing the systems that enable them is like cutting weeds without removing the roots. Vance's demands weren't punitive, they were corrective. The independent audit forced the company to confront uncomfortable truths. The training program equipped employees with necessary skills. The advisory board ensured diverse perspectives would shape future decisions. And most importantly, the investment fund extended opportunity to others, using capital to build bridges rather than barriers. The ultimate power move wasn't the freezing of funds. It was their redirection toward creating a more equitable industry. Dr. Vance didn't just win a battle for herself, she changed the rules of engagement for countless others who lack her leverage. In her own words, true power isn't demonstrated by shouting in a moment of anger. It's shown by having the leverage to fundamentally change the room long after the shouting stops. Her story reminds us that justice requires not just moral clarity, but strategic action. And sometimes the most effective response to discrimination isn't just individual success, but using that success to dismantle the very systems that made it exceptional in the first place. Like this video if you want to see more stories of powerful responses to discrimination. Together, we can spotlight those who aren't just breaking barriers. They're rebuilding better paths for everyone.